I want to ask you first, how did the tiny home come about for you? When did you learn about it and the opportunity to possibly get in there and, play a role?
Hank Alexander is very persuasive. No, honestly, man, we're excited to do it. Hank called and asked about it, and of course we jumped at it because that's a cool opportunity. There's going to be a bunch of people walking through it. We're excited to just be one of the brands in there with some of the other big boys.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. We're just a stone's throw away from CEDIA Expo 2022 down there in Dallas, Texas. First full-scale CEDIA in quite a few years, and I know the industry is excited to get back together. We're excited as part of the Nationwide and HTSN and ASEAN Unlimited network. Really looking forward to getting down there to the Kay Bailey Hutchison Convention Center, where the presence is going to be, Texas-sized, if you will. We're bringing a tiny home to Dallas. If you saw the news that dropped recently on the Nationwide blog, but tiny home, 300 square feet or so, give or take a few feet here or there, but packed with technology and the things you'd expect a custom integrator to, spec into a home that they're working on and putting together for a client. And excited for the first time ever to be able to show that off in front of the CEDIA community. And, as we get into, the run up to the show, one of the partners that helped put some of those upgrades in is PowerShades, company out there in the CEDIA channel that offers a selection and really cool technology, motor driven, power over Ethernet driven motors that offer automated shades, and they look great. They don't have the bulky cables and plugs and things you'd expect that you might find on some other options out there in the industry. And, doing a really cool job of, working their product into not only the tiny home, but this channel in general. And Jason Turner, VP co-founder there of the company of PowerShades, hops on the podcast today. And we dive into it all, history of the company, kind of how they got their start, a guy that has a background in the aerospace industry and how he winds up, working on shades and these motorized shades. And so just a really cool story of not only his story, but the brand itself, how it's grown over, the last couple of years, how they've been working with our HTSN members, and just a lot of cool stuff to dive into. And excited to have had Jason on the podcast. So let's just go into it. This is Jason Turner of PowerShades here on the Independent Thinking Podcast. All right, we are back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and excited we're gearing up for CEDIA Expo here in just a few days, I believe, by the time you're listening to this, just about a week out as this episode's dropping. But a lot of exciting things going on down there in Dallas, and we're excited. Can't use that word enough, I guess, to see our partners from all across the industry. But today we get to focus in on a partner that helped pull together some pretty cool upgrades. We got a new tiny home rolling into CEDIA Expo down there at Dallas. Excited to get that in front of the industry, and of course, PowerShades, Mr. Jason Turner, the VP and co-founder of PowerShades. Appreciate not only what you've done for the tiny home, but also coming on and doing a podcast with us ahead of the show.
Yeah, well, it's my honor to be on here. I appreciate you guys thinking of us, and man, we're excited to be part of the tiny home, CEDIA, just the whole works. We're ready to get the world going again, man.
I
We're
hear you.
excited to get to this show. We're excited for a good turnout. That is our real big market, and man, we're excited to play again.
Yeah, I see you're excited too. So you can't use that word enough. But no,
Yep.
before we dive into all that, I want to give you a chance. Give our audience, our listeners, a little background on yourself and your path through the industry, and then helping co-found PowerShades.
Sure. Well, I guess thanks for the opportunity to bore everyone. So I guess personally, I'm an electrical engineer. I started in aerospace actually,
Wow.
and then worked in all sorts of automation, both commercial and residential. And ultimately got kind of excited about doing big scale automation in hotels and stuff like that. And that's what led us to PowerShades, myself and my co-founder, Ryan Chacon. We've kind of been doing this for years together. And this is our, our entry point into this kind of automation. So we've been doing this now going on close to 6 years now, and man, we're having a blast with it.
Yeah, well, that's a crazy transition,
Yeah.
aerospace to power like to shading.
Yeah.
What was it something in that industry that got you thinking about the automation space, or what was it? How do you make that? What's it like making that transition?
Family.
Yeah, there you
That's,
go.
family has made a lot of the decisions of where I've landed in the country. And quite honestly, the aerospace part of it was a lot of fun, but it was big stuff where we had our backpacks and lunch boxes checked by armed guards every day going in and out of work. And as I transitioned in my career into industrial automation and machinery to make mattresses and furniture and bedding and all kinds of stuff like that, it was just the whole automation part of it really, really intrigued me. And it's just always kind of been my first passion in my career. I've always loved the automation part. And what we're doing now is a lot of fun because the CEDIA industry, again, is kind of that whole home automation, home theater, smart lighting, speakers, all that. That's always been my passion.
No,
And so now we're in that world again, and life is good.
yeah, and now the elevator pitch, I guess. The name kind of does it, but I know you guys are obviously more than just automated shades too. So like talk
Yep.
about what Power Shades brings to the table, and anyone that swings by and sees you at CEDIA, what they'd be seeing.
Sure. We really pride ourselves, myself and Ryan and the team we've built here. We really consider ourselves an engineering company first. We have a lot of IP and patents around the technology that we have brought to this industry. When we started looking at the window shades world, we did see some deficiencies in some of the large scale automation. So that's what we started with, and that's what we developed first. And then we partnered with, really the industry leaders in hardware and fabrics and that kind of thing to bring the traditional window shade to the market that everyone's used to, but with a new spin on some of the technology. And that's really our sweet spot.
Yeah, and talk about that. The
Sure.
technology. I know power over Ethernet. It's stuff like that might to the standard retailer or
Mhm.
consumer might not mean a lot, but when you get into this integration community,
Mhm.
those three little letters mean quite a bit, and
Those
they get
three little
excited
letters.
about it for sure, right?
Yep, for sure. So, power over Ethernet, man, it's really ubiquitous across the commercial industry and a lot of residential high-end residential stuff. And it's simple things like powering your Wi-Fi access point, or maybe a touch screen in the wall, or a phone, security cameras. There's all these devices now that need a communication path, but they also need a little bit of power. And historically, you had to use kind of a wall wart thing, we would call it. So you'd have a network cable you'd plug into your device, and you'd also have this wall wart that you had to find a plug-in for to power it. So several years back, they came out with a standard of power over Ethernet, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a very clever name, but it provides a little bit of power also over that network cable. And to be perfectly honest, that was the stepping off point for us, because when we started looking at this industry, we just expected that was already out there. And Ryan and I were both pretty floored when we found out it wasn't. So that was our first real effort. And we developed and patented the power over Ethernet motor. Still the only company in the industry making that motor and supplying it. And it makes the install and the control so much easier. Every low voltage guy out there already has the crimpers to put the ends on that cable. Most of these guys already know how to do the networking very well. So it's just a natural extension. They run that cable that they're already running for all the voice and data in the building, the home. And in our case, they just plug it into the motor when they mount the shade. There's no extra boxes, there's no converters, it's very simple. And almost as importantly, especially when you start getting into these big structures, they don't have to hire a high voltage licensed electrician to do every one of those power drops. And that's a significant money saver right there. And then the low voltage normal AV guys and network guys can all get in there and work on it and troubleshoot it. And so that, as I said, that was really our big stepping in point and toe in the water in this industry. And since then, we've of course developed a lot of connectivity, a lot of additional technology. We've got multiple other motors, and other, I would say, other product lines that are very quick to be launching. We're kind of like a duck on the water where we just are cruising along, but under the water, man, we're just paddling away and trying to get all the stuff out there we can. We've got a wonderful network of dealers, and including all the nationwide people that are comfortable with the products we're doing today. But we get these requests, if you guys could also do this or also do that. So we've got a great engineering team here that we're just cranking away in the lab in the back room trying to get that stuff out there.
I'd also, you mentioned all the benefits of, what you've been able to achieve with that power over Ethernet. One thing that you can't not mention, or you'd be remiss to mention, is the fact that it just looks better. You mentioned the fact that you don't have the power, the plug to, that has to find another outlet to plug into, and in a space that increasingly it always has been, the concern or wanting to make sure that this technology looks nice and fits into designs and things like that. But the ability to not have to worry about a second plug or something that hangs, off of the shades off to the side, something like that.
Oh, sure.
Just looks better.
It's funny, and I think probably everybody does this depending on what industry you're in. But being in the industry I'm in, every time I stay in a hotel that has motorized shades, if they're not ours, I always have to go up there and look up in the window and see the rat's nest of wires and how they're connected. And again, insert your industry here, and that's what you notice when you go out to lunch or stay in a hotel or whatever.
Well, cool opportunity too, because I know you guys, we talk about the things that we're doing with our dealers. You guys are doing a lot on the commercial side as well. So talk about sort of what you've been able to do. You mentioned it a little bit with the going to hotels and things like that, but talk about that commercial side of the business and
sure. Really today, I would say probably better than 80% of our business is residential, high-end residential CEDIA world. But we are really growing pretty fast in the commercial world. We've done a handful of really large scale hotels. We do a lot of office buildings, schools, we've done hospitals, things like that. We just completed the install in Connecticut for the nation's first net zero hotel called the Hotel Marcel. Really a cool project. It's kind of a striking looking building. It's this big concrete structure that it sets on the water there in Connecticut, and we did close to 1,000 of our PoE motors in that building. And the hotel itself is beautiful, and every one of the windows has dual shades in there of what we call day night, where you go to bed at night, you can drop the blackouts, but during the day you can raise the blackouts and just have a kind of a light filtering thing in there that gives you some privacy but blocks the real blaring sun coming in. That's been a lot of fun. And with our technology and the way that not to go too deep, but how IP based we are, how easy our stuff is to control, and a lot of our product just sets on the local network in the building. It lends itself very well to to some of these bigger, what they call building automation systems, which are typically different than your home automation guys, because they're controlling HVAC and elevator systems and large scale lighting, and a lot of similarities between the two, of course. But when we step off into that large scale building automation stuff, there just typically ends up being more needs, more connection points, more data points, and our system lends itself very well to that and can just hang on that network.
Pretty cool to see that. Sort of, you mentioned they're very similar, but also like thinking about the fact that it's more than just maybe, a 5-bedroom house. It's a
Yeah, yeah,
35 floor hotel. So it's a little bit more
exactly.
taxing.
And they start doing a lot of really cool stuff where, they know what rooms are, of course, rented,
Yep.
what rooms are rented and occupied, what rooms are rented and not occupied, because everybody does it. You go, you check into a hotel, you crank your air conditioner down, you open the windows, turn on the TV, and then you go to the pool or the bar, maybe, depending on
Right.
on how your day's been. And the hotels are doing a lot of really cool stuff now to know that. Not that they're being creepy and spying or anything at all like that. They just, through motion sensing and some occupancy sensing, it radically helps them reduce energy cost, which that part is easy enough to do. The real kind of magic and fun part of it is to make the room recover quick enough so that whenever the guest comes back to the room, they don't know that the hotel's
Yep.
tried to save a few bucks on the air conditioning and stuff.
No,
So
that's funny. Again, that's something too that can be scaled. Well, not that can be, that is being scaled down. You think of some of the, the smart like thermostats and sensors that you have in rooms. They can tell when you're there and when you're
yeah,
not, whether the consumer recognizes it. And
yeah.
temperatures will be adjusted based on your schedules and what it learns over time. So hotel rooms, much the same. And again, just that much larger scale of, having the air raised a couple degrees for a few hours is going to, across all of those rooms in the hotel, is going to make a big difference on cost
Oh,
for you as
it's
well.
huge.
So
It's double digits.
yeah,
It's 20-30% energy savings. And
unbelievable.
that's absolutely one of those places where I feel like technology has made our lives better, for
Yeah,
sure.
really, really cool to see. And to kind of, focus in on what's coming up. We've got CEDIA. We mentioned it at the top, and you
Mm,
guys are going to be playing a part of that in our tiny home. So well,
yeah.
I want to ask you first, how did the tiny home come about for you? Like, when did you learn about it and the opportunity to possibly get in there and play a role in our tiny home?
I would say Hank Alexander is very persuasive. No, no, honestly, man, we're excited to do it. Hank called and asked about it, and of course we jumped at it because that's a cool little opportunity. No pun intended. It's a cool little house. There's going to be a bunch of people walking through it. We're excited to just be one of the brands in there with some of the other big boys. It's an honor for us to be included in that. Um, we're excited to be involved in it. We hope to get some good exposure there. And, quite honestly, a lot of people, part of our goal with that is a little more exposure, in that motorized shades don't just have to be a luxury. So many people think of them, you watch a movie and some penthouse in New York has them or something, but they don't have to be expensive. You're already going to put some window shades in your house anyway. It's not that much of an upgrade to go ahead and motorize some of them. So we're excited to be part of that and show people how easy they can be, how quiet they can be, and not as expensive as a lot of people think.
Yeah. Part
We're going to have our own booth there as well. And in fact, we're kind of going to be in all over the show. We've got 3 different locations. We've got our own big booth. We're in the tiny home, and we're part of the Powerhouse Alliance booth as well. And we'll be in all 3 places. And we're going to have our A team sales guys out there and gals.
yeah.
And man, we look forward to meeting everybody and just, getting back in the sandbox.
Yeah, for sure. Well, part of the to talk about the tiny home, that I feel like all of the things Hank's trying to do to that is because he wants to live in that. Maybe, he's out there in Wyoming. Maybe he just wants to like just further get himself into that wilderness sort of mindset and go on the road with the tiny home and have it be his home on the road. I don't know.
There you
So he's
go.
just
It's
trying to get
it's a
all his
little
toys in
RV on a trailer.
it. Exactly. So no, but so what talk about products specifically. Like, I know obviously the window treatments and the shades that are on there, but what did you guys put in there, as those were being upgraded?
Well, in the tiny home specifically, I believe we just got some shades in there and
I,
some controls, some wall controls, stuff like that. Um, in the in our regular booth, we're going to be showcasing some new stuff this year. Some one of the big things in our industry that's on a lot of people's mind is the light gaps, meaning how much light comes through on either side of the shade. We're going to be showcasing some stuff with much smaller light gaps, some new hardware. We are going to be showcasing some of our new outdoor shades, which it is really growing with all the outdoor living and people doing outdoor kitchens and kind of living spaces outside. So doing the shades out there properly and in side channels can, throughout the year really enhance the life. You can keep bugs out, sun out, wind, rain. But kind of just as importantly, in the colder months, by lowering these guys and putting a little heater out there, you can really reclaim a lot of that patio area or outdoor area and use it year round.
yeah, it's interesting. Never, I guess, thought about the idea. You've seen obviously over the last couple of years so much of this move to you know have more entertainment space outdoors and get
Mhm.
outside, things like that. I, Outdoor shading, not something that would have come to mind, but cool to see it. Kind of, you guys have been able to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, and we'll be showing that. Like I said, we've got there's ways to seal the sides of it, the
Yeah.
bottom of it, and really keep mosquitoes and everything at bay.
Oh, that's awesome. How about just being back at sea? You mentioned it a little bit, getting back into the
Mhm.
sandboxes, as you call it, but being able to get back to, getting face to face with this community and this industry. And obviously, there was a CD Expo last year, but it was around the time of the things swinging back up with the
Mhm.
pandemic and all. But really, this being the first one in almost, it feels like 3 years. I think it might be 3 years
Yeah,
since we really got
yeah.
together as a group.
Yeah, man, we're really excited about it. As I said, we're bringing several of our team members. We are super excited to get out there. And, as we've been growing, of course, we don't get a chance to get out and meet all of our dealers. And this is really going to be a good chance for us to put faces with names. We're really excited about seeing all of our old friends that are in the industry, and we're equally as excited about meeting some new people and signing up some new dealers. It's just there's an excitement at CEDIA that's hard to duplicate. We have been thankful for the regional CEDIA shows that have been going on all over the country, and of course
Yeah.
we attend most of those. But there's just really no substitute for the big show. It's the energy there. You inevitably you see some new cool stuff that um, you didn't even know was in the industry, and it always ends up planting some seeds and making us take a couple twists and turns as we get back home to think about new technologies, new things we could add, new partnerships, new opportunities. We're excited. I guess that's in a nutshell.
I might be the headline of this episode is
Yeah.
PowerShades excited for CEDIA. No, but we are too. I know everyone is. So you're not absolutely not alone in that. And but before we let you go, I want to talk about or give you the chance to talk about what it's been like. You've been working with our HTSN members here for a little while now. So what's that been like? What have you learned from them? And what's been working in terms of getting out in front of these dealers for our community.
Well, again, we've made some good friends in there. We've really met some great people and companies. I tell you, the biggest thing we've learned is what an opportunity there is. Most of these HTSN dealers are extremely comfortable and doing great at selling all of the things that they're used to selling. Motorized window shading is not something that most of these dealers or these retailers have been doing, and so we've been seeing a lot of excitement in a new revenue stream for these guys. We've that's really the biggest thing I would say. This just isn't a product line that most of these retailers are real comfortable with or have experience in. So we've had a lot of opportunity and training in bringing people up to speed, teaching them the benefits of shading and in particular motorized window shading. So it's really a growth path for us that we're excited to keep working on and growing, and we see big things to come out of it.
I I have to imagine, that thought of it's not something that they're used to, that's got to go across the entire space. So what's it been like at getting dealers educated on this type of product? And, what are some of the things you're saying as far as, tips to work shades into a conversation that, typically they're used to talk about home theaters and speakers
Yeah.
and video, that sort of stuff.
Training, man. That's been the
Yeah.
big thing, is to get people up to speed. One of the maybe slight differences that we've done as a company, as a philosophy, is to make the onboarding and the training, and COVID, to be quite honest, has played into that, in that we have tried to digitize as much of our training and material as we can. We've got a great sales team that just spends hours doing trainings and Zoom calls and all sorts of training with these dealers, but it's getting the tools in their hands, which is, I would say, the most important thing, to where they have a fabric book, they have a hardware sample kit that they can take out to, John Q. homeowner's house and set on the table, and let the wife pick these fabrics up and see what matches her couch or her walls. And because our dealer base is extremely competent in wiring and programming and mounting and all that. What we do find is often they aren't comfortable making interior design choices. And so getting the right materials in their hands to help that process. And we honestly work quite a bit. A lot of our really successful dealers, audio video integrator dealers, they work hand in hand with designers who get involved and help take our books into the homeowners' homes. And the end result there, it very often is much more pleasing, where you've got truly a designer involved and that automation specialist involved.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a nice segue to be able to talk to that community
Yep.
that I know has, gotten a lot of interest and attention from the CEDIA space over the last couple of years. So,
And
um,
I guess a little segue there is, I would say a lot of the HTSN members typically are maybe a little heavier on the design background, or so that it really is a good complement.
yeah, it's awesome to see, and it'll be cool to see it all come together at CD here in just a little bit. So, Jason, we appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun getting to learn, not only about the brand, but what you've been able to bring to our tiny home, or I guess Hank's tiny home, if we want to call it that.
Yeah.
No, but we're looking forward to it. And just to say it one more time, excited to see you down there in Dallas and have some fun as a full community for the first time in a long time.
Likewise, man. Thanks for having us on the show. It was great to meet you, and thanks to your listeners. We're really excited to get there and looking forward to what the rest of this year brings.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. And thanks again to Jason. Obviously a busy time right now as we're getting ready for CEDIA, just a couple days away. And, appreciate him taking the time and sharing their story. A lot of cool things going on, not only in the PowerShades and what they're doing with the tiny home, but some stuff that they'll be showing off at their own booth at CEDIA, and just a lot of cool things happening. So appreciate him. And as always, appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we will catch you next time.